Akeon Latunji. Federal government's World Bank team visits flood victims in Mokwa local government area of Niger State, assess level of destruction. Tonight, 32 years after the annulment of the June 12, 1993 election, we examine the state of democracy in Nigeria. And my guest tonight is the Director General Tinubu Support Group, Dr. Umar Tankoye Kasau. Welcome to the program, everyone. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's begin with some political developments. A joint team from the World Bank and the federal government of Nigeria has visited Mokwa local government area to commiserate with victims of the recent flood disaster and assess the level of destruction. The visit is part of the World Bank Support Group project, which aims to build resilience in semi-arid landscapes. Chairman Pamaye reports.
The full extent of the devastation caused by the Mokwa flood is still unfolding, as affected families continue to seek closure and assistance for resettlement.
I lost about 3 of them, Ibrahim, Khadija and Aisha. Our house has been destroyed already by the flood, so there's nothing. We didn't even, not anything. We couldn't even account for anything there. Nothing.
Narasa, kaya da ya rage man ke ga. Wanga kaya shine ya rage mani. Ko abinci ne ana yi abinci ne ana bani. Banda shi wallahi komi an aka yi mamu muna so dun komi mun rasa.
With the area now dried up, what remains is the quiet aftermath of the devastation. Collapsed homes, empty spaces where lives once thrived, and the daunting task of starting over.
Going forward,
a resettlement plan is now in motion to support displaced residents. A delegation led by the World Bank's senior environmental specialist is on ground under the Acrisol project to see things for themselves and speak with the people.
As part of the Acrisol project, we actually have approved the design for the rehabilitation of the gully around here before the flash flood happened. So we came to see whether the design is still adequate. From our assessment, we can say that the design currently will need to be expanded to be able to take on a more catchment management holistic approach. We are still putting our findings together, but the recommendation we have on the spot is to do a reassessment and redesign to be able to accommodate a wider basin catchment management approach.
As part of the visit, a town hall meeting was held to show solidarity with the victims and engage the community on the next steps for resettlement and recovery. The impact of gully erosion is visible in this place. The topography here shows that this area is a valley, which makes it a natural waterways. Acrisol say part of the assessment effort is to ensure that, in addition to resettlement, a drainage is built along this corridor to ensure free flow of water. Chanemi Bami, TVC News, Mokwa.
The administrator of River State, Ibokete Ibas, has appeared before the ad hoc committee on state of emergency rule to defend the 1.48 trillion naira 2025 budget proposal for the state. The ad hoc committee promises to do due diligence as it continues to with legislative work on the fiscal documents. National Assembly correspondent Jackie Adisa reports.
Benefit of the good people of the state.
On the 18th of March, President Bola Tinubu declared a state of emergency in River State. The proclamation was the climax of a protracted political crisis among leading figures in the South state. It's almost 3 months that former Chief of Naval Staff Ibokete Ibas assumed office as the administrator of River State. His administration proposes to spend 1.48 trillion naira in 2025 and seeks approval from the National Assembly in line with constitutional provision. The total revenue of the state government in 2024 stood at 1.04 trillion naira compared to a target of 800.39 billion naira, representing 250 billion naira or 31.6% above the budget target. But he raises concerns over the 2024 budget and its actual performance, insisting expenditures were understated by some officials. The proposed 2025 budget aligns with the strategic objectives in the River State 10-year development plan of 2017 to 2027.
As of May 2025, total revenue inflows were 597.14 billion naira, which is only about 4% less than our projection.
The administrator believes implementing the 2025 budget proposal will deliver great socio-economic benefits for the people of Rivers State.
This includes a 50 billion naira provision to begin to address the long-standing issues around pensions and gratuity arrears owed to retirees in Rivers State.
The committee requests for the record of the administration's performance since he assumed office.
This committee is committed to working with you to restoring stability, peace, growth and development in Rivers State.
In the estimation of the administrator, the budget proposal reinforces President Bola Tinubu's directive to deliver on the state's development priorities and ensure the continuity of programs that directly impact the lives and livelihoods of the people of Rivers State. Joke Yadsa, TVC News, Abuja.
The Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Commission has inaugurated a joint task force for market monitoring and regulations. The Executive Vice Chairman and CEO of the Commission, Mr. Tunji Bello, says the inauguration is to protect Nigerian consumers from harmful and unsafe products and also to promote business competitiveness in the Nigerian market. We have more in this report.
Section 17 of the Federal Competition and Consumer Protection Act 2018 mandates the Commission to seek ways and means of removing hazardous and unsafe products from Nigerian markets and eliminate obnoxious business practices that are deceptive, unfair, and misleading. This new team hopes to fulfill that mandate with the launch of the first phase of the Joint Task Force.
O God of creation,
the Director of Surveillance and Investigation, representing the EVC, says the first phase will cover 4 major markets in the FCT, including Wuse Market, Gariki Modern Market, Gariki International Market, and Utako Market. She says it will subsequently spread across other markets in the nation.
Effective market monitoring operations requires all hands to be on deck. That is, the regulators as well as the market union leaders need to come together as a team to make our market work for everyone.
Responding, market leaders expressed their commitment while also emphasizing on the need to sensitize traders.
It is part of our responsibility to see how we can all team up together to sanitize this environment. It's a soft target, and it's where, if care is not taken, it has the possibility of spreading around every bit of harmful goods taken into the market.
There was also a solicitation for cooperation by the general public in providing credible information and intelligence that will aid in the success of the Joint Task Force.
Let me also say, however, that as you are running business, some of us don't have time to look at what the law says. But ignorance of the law is not an excuse.
We welcome their idea of calling us for a meeting today. And as you can see, there is already understanding on ground. And we hope to continue the understanding as we agreed with each other.
The Commission says this effort will help to build trust between buyers and sellers while ensuring Nigerians' access to quality goods. Uloma Oyemachi, TVC News, Abuja.
Let's go on a short break, and when we return, we'll get straight into a conversation. Please stay with us.
Voted as the best TV station of the year, TVC News breaks into the core of every event as they happen. Following all nationwide big and impactful stories. What are the news from every perspective? Covering every human angle. I am Veronica, bringing you the news you would want to watch.
Good evening to you, Dr. Ekasao. My name is Olajumoke.
Stay ahead with the biggest news stories. Go beyond the news headlines. Experience impactful investigations. Enjoy resourceful news coverage in real time. TVC News at 7 and TVC News at 10 p.m. Live every day on this channel. TVC News. First with breaking news.
Every weekday on Business Nigeria, we uncover the secrets of the financial world.
We analyze the stock market, shares, bonds, and the thrilling world of cryptocurrency.
Facts matter. Our team dives deep to separate fact from popular opinion.
We simplify complex government policies as it impacts your everyday life, helping you navigate the ever-changing financial landscape.
Watch Business Nigeria every weekday at 2 p.m. only on TVC News. First with breaking news.
Every major news story is with many perspectives and layered with different levels of impact.
Hello. What time did this happen? We will be right there.
At TVC News, we follow the big and major news, gathering the facts, witnessing the outcome.
I am here live at the aftermath of the approval of the new national minimum wage.
We are TV station of the year, not just for breaking news, but for being first, fair and accurate. TVC News, first with breaking news.
Welcome back to Politics Tonight. Tomorrow, June 12, Nigeria marks another milestone in the journey of democracy. President Bola Tinubu will address a joint session of the National Assembly, the second of its kind in the history of Nigeria's democratic journey. 32 years after June 12 and 26 years of unbroken democratic rule since 1999. What is the state of democracy in Nigeria? Joining me live from Abuja studio is the Director General, Tinubu Support Group, TSG, Dr. Umar Tanko Ekasao. Good evening to you. Thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me, and good evening all.
Good evening to you. So 32 years after the historic June 12, 1993 elections, my first question is, how would you describe the state of democracy in Nigeria today? Have we truly realized the promise of June 12, or are we still grappling with the challenges of building an inclusive and accountable democratic system?
Can you come again?
How would you describe the state of democracy in Nigeria today? Have we truly realized the promise of June 12, or are we still grappling with the challenges of building an inclusive and accountable democratic system?
All right, thank you very much. I think I would like to start by saying that if we go down memory lane, I remember before June 12, during the military era, I was a young child, and my father, at a point in time, the military came to our house, surrounded our house just to arrest and abduct my father, though luckily at that time he wasn't in town. And when he came back from the airport, he was taken straight to prison, Kirikiri prison, and it took us months before we could even hear about his whereabouts. Now, those were the tendencies at that point in time, because there was no democracy. At that time, it was military junta. And then later on, I grew up and I went to the university, and I joined the student movement. And I was lucky enough to participate in National Association of Nigerian Student Nurses as an activist. And I knew that after the June 12, many of us were involved in the struggle for return of democracy, for ensuring that the mandate at that point in time of the late MK Abiola was realized or returned. And that took us right through fighting for the return of democracy, and with all the efforts and our colleagues across the country until the return of democracy in 1999. At that point in time, I was first Financial Secretary of the National Association of Nigerian Students, later Senate President of NANS, and then I became NANS President. So those were the stories at that point in time. battling with the junta to return democracy. And now that democracy has come back, I do believe that we have recorded tremendous success in Nigeria. Democracy has really grown. Why do I say so? I know that now, as students, you can protest about increase in tuition fees, lack of basic amenities on the campuses, and you don't have to battle with police or the military on the street coming to harass you. You can peacefully protest on the street, and you have reason to air your grievances, and you don't have any military or police harassing you. One. Two, you could also remember that people find it difficult at that point in time to discuss politics, to gather, no freedom of movement, no freedom of association, no freedom of gathering, nothing. You have no right or say in the governance of this country, either at the local, at the state, or at the national level. Now Nigerians, through democracy, have their right to say, to speak, to participate freely and without any coercion or harassment. That in itself is progress. Before, people just, you would just be at home and you just hear that a military administrator has been posted to your state. You have no input in his coming, and you have no input in his governance of your state. But right now, you have the ability to vote from ward to local government to state legislatures and governors and even the president. Right. So that is, in my own opinion, a progress. So I think we have recorded a great amount of progress in this democracy.
Right, and thank you for sharing that personal experience with us, because the belief is that Nigeria's democratic institutions today are a mix of progress and persistent challenges. Yes, the country has seen improved frameworks for elections, a more assertive legislature, and what I would call a growing civil society presence. However, issues like corruption, political interference, and insecurity continue to test the independence and strength of these institutions. But how strong are Nigeria's democratic institutions today? How have the roles of the judiciary, legislature, and executive evolved since 1993? Has Nigeria successfully implemented, checks and balances in its democratic system?
Yeah, every country passes through process of development, political development, and Nigeria is not an exception. I remember I read a book by Francis Fukuyama on political order and political decay, and in around 1880, the United States of America was exactly where Nigeria is today, where you have people practicing politics of patronage, where institutions are no longer strong, where divisions of the judiciary, the legislature, and the executive do not have the requisite independence that we talked about. There was patrimonialism, there was reciprocal altruism, there was clientelism. All these things characterized the U.S. in the 1880s until they started a reform, and then which took them over 30 to 50 years to ensure that they are where they are today, and the foundation has been set by the Pendleton Act. So likewise, in Nigeria, we know that the National Assembly has been functioning as an independent body and an independent organ in this democracy. The judiciary has also been operating as an independent body. The executive has been operating as an independent body. But of course, there is, at this point in time, a relationship that happens between the National Assembly and the executive, or sometimes politicians also take advantage of the judicial system. But it's all part of progress, part of political development. And there are stages that you must pass through before you reach level of maturity. And I think that so far, so good. The institutions that are the pillars of democracy in Nigeria have been established. The National Assembly have had their own decision to choose who their leadership is and change from time to time. The judiciary has consistently been electing or appointing CJN based on years of service, and there is no interruption in that. The executive have also tried to ensure that policies and programs align with the wishes and aspirations of Nigerians. So I think that and nobody is using the army, the police to coerce anybody in order to take a decision in this country. So I think that the institutions, they are not there yet, but it's a process of development. And like I've told you, if you read history, it takes years for democracy to take its final route and for it to achieve that level. But you know that even in the US, you get to a point where the judiciary and the legislative arm of government will begin to exercise vetocracy. Vetocracy is a situation where, because they have powers, executive will come with policies and programs, and then the National Assembly will use their veto power to stop it, or the judiciary will use their veto power to stop it. Even though I've not reached that level, but this is currently what's happening in the US. Trump wants things passed. Somebody will just go to the court, and then they will stop that executive order from being implemented. When Biden was there are a lot of infrastructural budget that he wanted to pass through the Congress. And you remember some of his, even Democrat senators were against it, and he couldn't achieve that. So vetocracy is part and parcel of in fact, advanced democracy.
Absolutely, because there are some Nigerians questioning or wanting to know if at this point these three institutions respect each other's opinion and hold themselves accountable effectively. But how inclusive is Nigeria's democracy for women, youth, and marginalized groups? Women, for instance, are significantly underrepresented in Nigeria's political space. And I'll give you an example. In the National Assembly, for example, the 10th Assembly, women hold only about 4.7% of seats, down from 5.8% in the previous assembly. And this is far below the global average. Would you say that Nigeria's democracy is truly inclusive?
Yeah, you know, the democracy will only develop along with other sectors. For instance, what is the level of literacy in our society? You have to have high level of literacy, high level of enlightenment for people who are the community when it comes to election, to be able to agree that if there is a contest, females have fair play, level playing ground, and they win elections and they come into the National Assembly. So I think the process of sieving out gender representation in the National Assembly starts from the grassroots when you are doing primaries, when you are doing general election. And that cannot be completely removed from the reality of our society, where we need to also understand the role of culture, the role of education, the role of gender perception and mainstreaming. And so all these things have contributed to where women representation are in the country. Even though the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has tried where he has the executive power to do so, to say that there will be 35% affirmation, where representation of women will be up to 35% by determination. And that, even though it's not true election, but that is a conscious effort to ensure that greater percentage of women have access to government, have access to participate in governance. And I think if you look at the cabinet of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, there is enough representation, and the National Assembly too, depending on which society you come from, there is an increasing number of participation. But it has to do with educational background, cultural tendencies and development. So it's a stage in development, in political development in every nation, and we will get there someday.
All right, let's stay on that. So what legal reforms are necessary to enhance women's political representation in Nigeria? Or let me rephrase that, Dr. Igasa. If you had the power to implement one change today to advance women's political participation in Nigeria, what would it be?
Can you come again?
I wanted to know what legal reforms are necessary to enhance women's political representation in Nigeria.
What will enhance political representation of women in Nigeria?
Yes, what reforms are necessary to enhance women's political representation in Nigeria? And I also said if you had the power to implement one change today to advance women's political participation in Nigeria, what would it be?
I think the first thing to do is to ensure that a campaign on enlightenment of the citizens, on the need to give women a chance in governance. I think you cannot force, you cannot coerce citizens, since it's a democracy, to ensure that slots are given to women. But the only way you can achieve that is through advocacy, through sensitization, reaching out to communities who determine the vote, who ensure that people get opportunities to serve in government. So I think sensitization, education, and then enlightenment of the community and politicians very key in that achieving that. Because you wouldn't want to go through force and coercion where you say that by electoral act or by whatever law you deny any gender opportunity of participation or representation by guaranteeing another. So that will be in itself an infringement, because you have to be careful not to move from empowering women to disempowering men. It creates conflict. So it has to be a balanced system that ensures natural transition to advancing gender in politics.
That sounds interesting, because, the notion is that Nigeria's democracy is formally inclusive in terms of constitutional guarantees, but practically inclusive in the political and decision-making arenas. And that was why it was important to get your perspectives on that. But moving on quickly, and this is me taking you back to one of the many statements made by late Chief MK Abiola. He once said, only real democracy can move our nation forward towards progress and earn her the respect she deserves from the international community. As a chieftain of the ruling party, what role do political parties play in promoting democracy and good governance? How has political competition evolved since the early years of democracy?
Yeah, so, I remember my dad was telling me a story that when that time we were young, when there is an election, every election cycle, they even have issues finding quality people who are qualified to contest positions. And like, for instance, in Kano, they take somebody from particular local government or community and ask him to go to a different community and contest so that he can win. That was a time in Nigeria where people move from one community to another in order to be able to represent the people of that community. But now, that is not so. Every community in Nigeria has grown to the level that for every election round, you have more than enough people that are qualified to go into contest. Now, the only challenge I see is that internal party democracy, where people who decide who picks what, or who becomes what, or who win primaries, sometimes use their powers, their connections to ensure that internal party democracy does not take place. But also, it's also a part of development in politics. And I would say that some parties, like the All Progressive Congress, have ensured that internal party democracy takes place, where people who will freely go buy forms for primaries, expression of interest, and then go into contest and then win. Of course, you cannot remove complete politics and the political dynamics in the primaries that take place, which is part and parcel of the game of politics. And everybody who wants to play that game must go by the rule. But I am assuring you that sometimes there is a progress, because parties, and if you miss out in this political party, you have other platforms to be able to fly your own ticket. So political parties have contributed to development of politics in Nigeria, but I know there are still challenges, there is still progress to be made, and there are still some changes here and there.
Absolutely, and also because Nigeria's diversity is often seen as both a strength and a challenge. And I'm here wondering how we can foster greater unity while respecting this diversity. But let's take a break at this moment, and when we return, we'll continue this conversation. This is Politics Tonight, everyone.
I'm Nifemi Oguntoye, news anchor with TVC News. My day is usually busy, and it's difficult keeping up with breaking news stories, trending stories, business news, stock exchange, and what have you. But with TVC News on WhatsApp, I'm able to catch up with all the breaking news, real-time updates, and trending stories on the go, right on my phone, no matter where I am. It's quick, easy, and always on. And here you can join us by scanning the QR code or using the link on our X and Instagram. Why wait? Come to the side of news that keeps you ahead. TVC News, first with breaking news.
It's 26 years of straight civil rule, the longest in Nigeria's democratic experience. The Fourth Republic has witnessed 7 successful presidential elections with winners. As part of TVC Town Square series, Tune to TVC News on Thursday, June 12 at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. for an engaging discourse on 26 years of unbroken democracy, celebrating our wins and charting the path for the future. With our team of esteemed panelists, Founder and Director of Women Advocate and Research Development Center, Dr. Abiola Akiode Afolabi, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Biodun Owonikoko, Country Director of the Amnesty International, Isa Sanusi, Daniel Buhala, Special Advisor to the President on Media and Policy Communication, and veteran journalist Babajide Koladioti Toju. They will be joined by a live studio audience. But you will not miss out if you're not in the studio. You can participate in the discussion through all our social media platforms. Stay tuned to TVC News. First with breaking news.
Every weekday on Business Nigeria, we uncover the secrets of the financial world.
We analyze the stock market, shares, bonds, and the thrilling world of cryptocurrency.
Facts matter. Our team dives deep to separate fact from popular opinion.
We simplify complex government policies as it impacts your everyday life, helping you navigate the ever-changing financial landscape.
Watch Business Nigeria every weekday at 2 p.m. only on TVC News. First with breaking news.
Doubt and fear doesn't occur at the canvas, it shows in the canvas. It shows the conation of raw earthen material slabbed, stroked and molded at a pace provided by the doubt and fear. Every move way in the struggle of one to the other, merging the past to the present, brushstrokes of colors seen but not known. For when the wailing stops, the pieces settle down in abject beauty erected for a century of a century. Speaking, advocating, protesting as the arts are meant to be.
Welcome back, everyone. This is Politics Tonight. Thank you for staying with us on the program. 32 years after June 12, the big question tonight is, how is democracy in Nigeria? Dr. Umaru Tanko Yekasal, Director General Tinubu Support Group, is my guest tonight. Dr. Yekasal, thank you so much for staying with us on the program. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.
Right, so let's move on quickly. And with several conversations with elderly people who were key figures in the June 12 struggle, I mean, we got to know that merit and unity were what June 12 represented. But today we've discarded them on the altar of ethnicity and religion, all thanks to Nigerian politicians. Our fault lines have widened so much that we may be swallowed by them if we do not do the needful. For you, what is the role of the political class in enhancing national cohesion and integration in Nigeria? What strategies do you think can help build the ethnic and religious divides in the country?
Yeah, I think the first thing that we need to understand is that when you are doing state building, it should also go concurrently with nation building. What do I mean? You know, when you are in government and you run policies and programs to ensure that institutions are built and policies and programs are also rolled out for the benefit of all Nigerians, we should also look at the other component, which is cementing a relationship between multi-ethnic diversity groups in Nigeria, and that is what nation building is about. So the two must be seen to be going concurrently together, where we instill the patriotism in the hearts and minds of children, young people when they are growing, so that they begin to love the country. And the only way we can do that is that when you run an all-inclusive government, where people do not feel marginalized, everybody feels he's carried along and he has a stake in Nigeria. And that's exactly what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has been trying to do since the day he came into office in May 29, 2023, which many people don't seem to understand his vision. You know, when he won as a president, he said that he is going to run an all-inclusive government, and that's why he extended his hands of fellowship to other political parties other than only members of the APC. And today we have the likes of Wiki, who are holding ministerial positions in the government. People need to understand, why did the president do that? He did that to ensure that there is peace, there is harmony, everybody has a sense of belonging, not that the winner takes all mentality, which has been the case in the past. So you need to govern in such a way that everybody in Nigeria feels and have a sense of belonging and feels that the policies that you are doing should as meant to serve the entire country, not only some section of the country. So when you do road network that leads from Birnin Kebbi or Sokoto to Badagry, you are doing a road that is impacting the lives of northerners across that border up to Lagos. When you do a road that is coastal from Lagos to Calabar, you are also impacting the lives of one or two or more regions in this country. When you go to eastern Nigeria and you do road networks, you impact the lives of people who are there. When you come to northern Nigeria and you also do that. So government and governance should be for the interest of everybody, irrespective of whether he belongs to your party or tribe or religion. That is one aspect of it. But it's not only the responsibility of government to do that. It is the responsibility of everybody who is a Nigerian that lead a section of this country. Religious leaders, traditional rulers, all have a role to play. Now, what conversations are we having in our own small clique, in our own small family circle, in our own small community? Are we seeing that we want to contribute to nation building, or are we thinking that whatever comes should be for us alone? I think the conversation should move from seeing somebody in government as Yoruba, somebody from government as Igbo, somebody from government as a Hausaman. No, everybody who is in government should be seen as a Nigerian who is serving the interest of Nigeria. And this must start from our family values. If I'm in Kano, what conversation do I have with my children? You know, about a Southerner, about a Yoruba, about a Christian. It should be positive so that he grows up, my child grow up with that aspect of loving and kind towards humanity. If somebody is in Lagos or is a Yoruba or is in Abia, is an Igbo, what conversation is he having? Does he present other tribes as enemies, or does he present other tribes as Nigerians whom you have no option but to work with in diversity? So I think everybody has a role to play in nation building. Those who are in government and those who are outside government and their influencers, and also community and traditional rulers. So I think that's where it starts.
And I mean, interestingly or not, young people today did not experience June 12 firsthand. Do you think the younger generations truly understand the importance of June 12 and what it cost the country to get here?
Yeah, so the importance of June 12 is the fact, I think there are 2 or 3 importance or lessons that we learned. One, in a democratic setting, we had Amikio Abiola, late Amikio Abiola, whose life and legacies have had impact across the entire country, irrespective of tribe, religion, and ethnicity. And when he came to contest, everybody in Nigeria supported him because they saw him as a true Nigerian, as a nationalist, somebody whose benevolence cut across his regions, cut across other regions and other tribes. And so when he became a candidate and came to contest, he had overwhelming support from South, North, every nook and cranny, because nobody saw him as a Yoruba man. People saw him as a Nigerian who had done well. That is one aspect, which is something that we should take away in that struggle, that there is a time in Nigeria where people voted on the basis of the personality of the person who is on the ballot paper, and they saw him as a patriotic Nigerian. The second one is the fact that the military, at that point in time, did disservice to Nigeria by cancelling one of the freest and fairest elections that has happened in this country. And Nigerians were resilient. They resisted, but of course, because it was a military era, there was nothing they could do more than resist, continue with the struggle until the return of democracy in 1999. But the unity at that point in time towards ensuring that the mandate returns to late MKO Abiola was unanimous, was across the country. So I'm saying that it was a unifier in this country. It was a cementer of relationship. It was a diluter of diversity in this country at that point in time. And I think that is one of the significant lessons that we should hold on to and moving forward in Nigeria, that let us vote on the basis of the person, not where he comes from or the color of his skin or the background.
And because you've gone there, Dr. Ikasal, which would also lead me to my next question. MK Abiola's electoral victory was one, that cut across ethnic and religious divides, championed the rights to equality and non-discrimination, that as an electoral victory that showed that true democracy is about inclusion and respect for all identities. How would you say our fundamental human rights are being protected in Nigeria?
Yeah, I think, you know, from that time till the 1999, fundamental human rights were trampled by the military junta. But with the coming of democracy in 1999 and the gradual maturity of democracy in Nigeria, I think fundamental human rights of Nigerians are being protected, fundamental human rights of Nigerians are being guaranteed, and in fact, it is more so in this current administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, where people have the right to air their views, where people have the right through social media to create even fake stories and then spread it around, and then they wish that they still get away with such kind of fake stories, even though there is a responsibility to somebody who creates a content and ensure that he pushes into the society. Nobody has been harassed, nobody has been arrested, nobody has been tried. You know, if you hear a lot of fake news that is circulated on social media, a lot of incitement going on in the social media, these are attempts to give and protect the fundamental human rights of people, of Nigerians, but people are abusing it. And I think it is not right. We should be responsible. We should have the love of this country. We should be patriotic to ensure that you don't share something that you know has no truth or fact to it. So those are part of the fundamental right. I feel that it has been guaranteed, and people will protest on the street. Nobody will harass them. Students will come out and challenge their institutions. No military or police going to the campus to harass them. So I think the opposition are coalescing, you know, meeting in coalition, and nobody has going to stop them from doing their meetings. So I think the fundamental human right has been guaranteed, and especially by President Bola.
Right, and you know, I asked you that question because before now the conversation was that the beneficiaries of the struggle for democracy have not executed any strategic plan to ensure that those who fought the military should and must be encouraged to implement those visions they had under a democratic dispensation. Today, President Bola Tinubu, a key figure in Nigeria's June 12 struggle, is now president, one of the Big Ten, as identified by late Frank Okori. What does this mean for democracy and the spirit of June 12?
Yeah, I think the beauty of the coming of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is that many a times heroes don't live to tell the stories. But President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who was one of the leading members of the June 12 struggle and pro-democracy struggle, has lived enough, and God has crowned his effort by becoming the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And it is because of his antecedent, it is because of his experience in that struggle that many things that are, that are happening in this country now, and the way President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has democratically addressed some of those challenges without using coercion, without using the instrument of state, I think are because of his antecedents, because he knew the struggle he went through, the battles he had with the military junta, and he had to be in exile. So I think now that a champion has become the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, he is trying as much as possible to ensure that what he fought against does not happen under his watch. And that is why today, as a president, he had allowed a lot of positive engagement. He has allowed people to exercise their right. You know, I see even comedians, who on stage will crack jokes about his character, and he will just laugh about it. So I think it's good to have a champion of a pro-democracy movement in power, because he is now ensuring that democracy takes root in this country.
And 2 years into his administration, what are your expectations of him in deepening good governance in Nigeria?
Pardon?
What are your expectations of him in deepening good governance in Nigeria?
My expectation is that one, as a democratic president that we know him, he will ensure to continue to deepen democracy. One, by ensuring that all the arms of government are independent. Strong institutions are formed so that they will be able to function even when President Bola Ahmed Tinubu finishes his second term in office, because the only way you can succeed as a leader is to build lasting institutions. Institutions. And that's exactly what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing with all these reforms that are taking place. The tax reform is to ensure that our institutions are in place that will guarantee inflow of resources into the country, ensuring that the tax regime is foolproof, no pilferages, no wastages, centralized, and then efficient. It is the same thing he's doing with political parties having the right to exercise their fundamental right. It is the same thing he's doing with the judiciary, where the judiciary are independent and then they hold their decisions and their verdict without any coercion. It is the same thing he's doing with the National Assembly, where the budget is taken to them and then they vet the budget of the executive and they pass it, and then he accents to it and ensure that it is implemented based on the availability of resources. So these things that he's doing are deepening democracy, and I expect that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu will continue to do that and then also ensure that electoral reforms continue to take place and take effect, so that we will continue to have smooth transition from one regime to another, ensuring that education is available to the downtrodden, ensuring that agricultural sectors are also supported so that there will be food sufficiency and food security in Nigeria, ensuring that the health sector is also revamped in such a way that people have access to insurance so that they can have care at the time when they need it, ensuring that security is guaranteed, ensuring that the economy is robust, there is enough resources to run the government, ensuring that there is no wastage. So these are the things that will deepen democracy. And these are the things that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is doing, and I expect him to continue and even do more, so that Nigeria will be a solid democracy that will last for more than 100 or 200 or 300 years in the future.
So if we're to focus on our judiciary, our police, and our democracy, the controls and institutions needed to make democracy work, are these elements on trial? That's like the recent question on the lip of so many Nigerians recently. Because some concerned stakeholders have also said the law currently bows to political interest instead of the other way around. How true is this?
Can you come again? Sorry.
Did you get that? All right, I want us to focus.
No, I didn't get.
Right, I want us to focus on our judiciary, our police, and our democracy. These are the controls and institutions needed to make democracy work. Are these elements on trial, Dr. Yakasa? Because some concerned stakeholders have also said the law currently bows to political interests instead of the other way around. And I'm asking, how true is this?
I think it's not true. You see, in Nigeria, when you take your case to the judiciary for adjudication, if it meets your aspiration, you say judiciary is just. If it doesn't meet your aspiration, you say the judiciary is unjust. And you know, in the judiciary, I'm not a lawyer, but I know that what happens is fact speaks for itself. And if you have a case before the judiciary and you lawyers present it very well, argue their case very well, the judges will make their own verdict based on the facts available to them. And people sometimes go to these courts ill-prepared or without strong evidence and hoping that by some level of magic wand, the verdict will go their way. So I think we need to ensure that every time we have cases before the judiciary, our lawyers and ourselves ensure that enough evidence is provided for the judiciary to be able to make an informed verdict based on fact, based on evidence. So I think that's what's mostly happening, where people expect that they will win a case. And the surprising thing is that, you know, one thing that's happening in Nigeria, which is not so good, is that there will be a case that has been adjudicated, in the court, and people go to media houses every day to discuss what their lawyers said, what the other lawyers said, and this will be the likely verdict at the end of the court adjudication. People go to the radio houses and discuss cases that are before the judges, and expecting that they will get a verdict. And when they get contrary, then they claim otherwise, that there has not been justice. So I think that should stop. If something is adjudicated in the court, people should hold on and wait for the verdict, rather anticipating the verdict, and when they didn't get it, they will blame the judiciary.
All right. So one final issue we must talk about tonight is our election. I mean, there's been concern, or there have been several concerns raised over continuous decline in the quality of our elections, despite reforms introduced beyond mere election funding. Another point to pay critical attention to is ensuring that more people turn out to vote on election day so as to avoid waste of funds. And I mean, if we were to go by statistics, for the 2015 and 2019 elections, the country wasted over 62% of election funds due to low turnout of registered voters, and that's over 250 billion naira. So as we work towards electoral integrity, what workable measures must we adopt to ensure that more participation despite the continuous increase in the number of registered voters? Dr. Ekasal.
Yeah, I think, it started with the military taking over, and people have lost confidence in democracy because the military ruled for a very long time. And when democracy came back, people did not trust that the military will really hand over and go back to the barracks. So it takes time to build confidence that when you do election, the election will not be, democracy will not be truncated. So over time, if you have analyzed some of these results and voter participation, you will see that out of the total registered voters in Nigeria, hardly do we get 50% in the past. It's a gradual process, it's increasing. And also, we politicians sometimes contribute to voter apathy. Why? Because people who are in opposition, when they do go around campaigning, they tend to heat up the polity in such a way that people find it difficult to freely come out on the day of election thinking that there will be violence. So I think that, moving forward, if the 2027 election as it comes closer, elections are, and people who parties conduct themselves in such a way that election is healthy and the process of campaign is healthy, no violence, no intimidation, I think it will encourage people to come out and vote. Secondly, by the time the full result or impact of policies of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu comes to bear in the next 1 year or less than that, there will be a lot of confidence in the system that people want that continuity, and then you will have greater number of voters coming to vote. And then also INEC have to do a lot, and parties mobilizing people to vote, mobilizing more people to register who have come of age. So I think these are the strategies to follow to ensure that there are more voters registered and more voters coming out on the day.
In 30 seconds, Dr. Ekasal, just to wrap this up, what advice would you give to Nigeria's current and future leaders about balancing national interest with democratic ideals? In 30 seconds.
Nigerians should please think of the country rather than themselves. In our conversations with our family, in our conversation in the community, let us be patriotic. Wherever we are discussing politics, let's discuss it based on patriotism so that people and the nation, Nigeria, will become a greater nation in this country. Let us drop our own parochial interests. Let us not ensure to fuel features or divisions along ethnic, religious divides in this country. Let's discuss issues when we come to politics, and let us not discuss parochial and mundane issues that will divide us further. That's my one take.
Very instructive way to end the program tonight. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Umar Tanko Ekasal, Director General, Tinubu Support Group. Thank you so much for your time on Politics Tonight. Thank you. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Right. And thank you very much for watching, everyone. That marks the end of today's episode of Politics Tonight. But before we go, let's tell you that the views and reactions of our resource persons are theirs and have no connection with TVC News. Meanwhile, you can watch the repeat broadcast of this episode at 12:30 a.m. Get in touch with us on our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, and X at TVC News NG and at Olajumoke using the hashtag Politics Tonight. We're also
Introducing the new Jig Sachet. Whitening your whites has never been more affordable. Now you can keep whites shining brighter and disinfect by killing 99.9% of germs on your floors and other surfaces. Just jig it with Jig Sachet.